Hello and good evening. My name is Minnelle Williams, and welcome to Ending Well with Minnelle. Myself, I am a pre planning funeral director and certified executor assistant and accredited end of life doula. Now, all of that comes together in this show, Ending Well with Minnelle, where I take time to discuss ending, legacy, our end of life plans, and pair it with living well. I like to have these conversations, even if they're a little bit uncomfortable, to normalize it so that we feel more comfortable acting, asking questions, and engaging in this conversation. So today I'm very happy to invite Natalie Mullen from A Full Cup. And she is a wellness professional who will help us mirror the two of balancing the end of life legacy conversations while taking care of our mental health and feeling comfortable in the process. All right. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. I'm very happy to have you. Now, you guys don't know, but Natalie and I have a history. So I'm very excited to have this conversation with her to see kind of where she's grown and trying to hear a little bit about her story. So I know you, but can you please introduce yourself to everyone else?
Yes, certainly. So my name is Natalie Mullen. I wear many hats, but I am a certified wellness educator and I am also a teacher. I'm a speaker and lots of other things. But that's pretty much what I do.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, let's start off with the icebreaker question. So, here's my question I ask everyone. If you died today, what is one life lesson that you would want to share with the world? What's something that you've learned that you want to pass on as a part of your legacy?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just really that life is worth living to the fullest. And I just remember hearing this quote when I was younger from a preacher. His name was Miles Monroe, and he always talked about the fact that the grave was the richest place, and it was because everybody died with their ideas and their dreams and their potentials, and they never got to actualize them. I remember hearing that and being like, that is just so sad because it's wasted. If it's in the grave, we can never get it back. So it's really important to me to just live life as full as I can, and just pursue the dreams and goals I have while I'm here and just try. Like, even if I fail, it's okay. But just give myself the opportunity, whatever is in my head, whatever is in my heart, what would it look like to actualize that or to try to see it through? So at least when I die, I can die empty. I've given everything I have of myself to others. I've served others. I've helped others. And then I can feel like whenever my time comes, I didn't rob the world of whatever gifts and talents God's given me.
Yes, I like that. Not robbing the world of my talent. It's as though it's up to me to give it, and how dare I hold in the talents that I have. I love that. Actually, I'm going to take that. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about A Full Cup? From A Full Cup, explain your business, please.
Yeah, so from A Full Cup, I came up with this name because I really think that this is the goal we should have in life. I think, especially as women, a lot of us are givers, okay? Especially if you are wearing multiple hats and responsibilities, moms, wives, but it doesn't matter. I think just women in general, we're known for being nurturing. We're known for being giving. These are just the feminine qualities that we have. And we give, whether to our communities, whether to our families, whether to our workplace. And what happens is that our cup runs dry. And I'm sure you've heard that popular quote that you can't pour from an empty cup. And so the flip side of that is, if we can't pour from an empty cup, well, what do we need to do instead? We need to fill our cup. And the idea is that once our cup is full, we can now serve others from a full cup. And so now we can serve joyfully. We're not serving out of resentment or out of obligation, but because we have an overflow, we've taken care of our needs first. Now it truly comes across that we're serving because we want to. We're serving out of joy. We're serving out of fulfillment, out of alignment. And then how much more is that service for not just our loved ones and our communities, but even for our own selves? So that's where the name came from.
Yes, I love that. Now, I'm just thinking, you're talking about a lot of times you're working with and serving women, and it's true. Women typically will carry many hats. Your mother, wife, a daughter, a friend, many things, right? So what are some ways that you help women specifically in managing what they have? And I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of someone who can maybe coming to me, maybe estate planning, and they have everything else that they're dealing with as well. How do you help them balance and manage what they're doing?
Yeah, so for me, I'm really helping people rediscover their relationship with time. because this is the number one wellness complaint a lot of times for women, is that I just don't have the time to take care of myself. I don't have the time to practice self-care. I don't have the time to pursue my own dreams and goals because I have all these responsibilities. And the thing is, like, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. I don't have any extra, that's for sure. So it's just looking at, but what is it that you want out of life, and how can you make changes that still fit your lifestyle? Because I can't just say to you, you know, Minnelle, go take 2 hours and do a morning routine and then another 2 hours for an evening routine, if that doesn't fit your life. It definitely does not fit my life and my schedule, raising a toddler. It's not allowed, right? But there are ways that you can really sit with a client and just work and say, okay, this is what's happening. Like, I remember I had a client and she was just convinced it's impossible for me to get any self-care. Here's my schedule. I'm working 2 jobs full time, 7 days a week, right? But I said to her, you know, even if we are combining a self-care practice while you're doing something else, like, there might not be the time to do something isolated. But for her, she was, so as an example, she really wanted to spend time with her daughter. Like, that was really important to her. And she was a single mom. So, you know, she really wanted to spend that time. There's more responsibility on her because she's a single mom. And I said, okay, in the moment that you are with your daughter and you're spending that quality time with her, what is something you can do for yourself at that time? And it can be small, because I think a lot of times when we're thinking about self-care and protecting our well-being, we're thinking of, like, you know, big things that we have to go somewhere, we have to have all this free time, and that might not be realistic. But I said to her, what's something you really enjoy? Like, it just makes you happy. She's like, Starbucks. I said, okay. So when you go to the bar, yes, I know. I know, you know, Timmy's here, Starbucks there. Agree to disagree.
Fair enough.
So, you know, I said, when you go to the park with your daughter, if you know that Starbucks brings you great joy, just stop at Starbucks on the way, get that cup of whatever you want. And as you're playing with your daughter, you're sipping this Starbucks drink and you're still feeling that joyful moment. And she was like, oh, I never thought of that. The next day she texts me, she says, oh my gosh, I'm at the park and I have Starbucks in my hand and I feel great. So sometimes it's very small things, but normally she wouldn't have thought to take care of herself even just a little bit. It's only about her daughter, right? So sometimes it's just working with people to see what is your lived life, because it's not going to work for what works for you is not going to work for me, because we don't have the same lives and we don't even necessarily have the same goals. And I really believe that your wellness plan should be customized to not just your lived reality, but what is your lived, or what is your future vision for yourself and for your life.
Wow. You just had me thinking of so many things. I'm thinking of one of my families, and they had experienced a loss, and what they were doing is playing music, and they would play their favorite songs in the midst of everything else that was happening, family, this, that, and they were just playing their music. And now I'm hearing you, I'm like, that's it. It's finding that peace in the midst of the storm, you know, that one thing. It's not self-care, it's self-care. And, you know, and I love that. Yeah.
Actually, I like that too. I'm going to write that. I'll steal that from each other. But yeah, I'm going to write that down. Self-care ends, because that's the thing. We still have to navigate life. Like, and we still, sometimes life, a lot is happening at the same time and we feel like we're on the hamster wheel. So it's really about, like, can we just slow down just a little bit? And say, how can we find, even if it's just small moments where we can put ourselves first, where we can just check in with ourselves. Your family that was using music, like, that's a way of them grounding themselves and centering themselves. And sometimes you just need something to hold on to as you go through the chaos. So that's a great strategy that everyone can put. I actually always recommend that to clients. Find songs that can anchor you when you're going through periods of turmoil, because music speaks to us in a specific way. There's music therapy, and studies show that music can be healing, and your brain remembers it even from in the womb. Like, children, a lot of moms when they're pregnant, they will play certain songs, and I was very intentional about doing that with my son when I felt he was kicking a lot, and I was like, okay, mom needs to sleep, so stop. But now when I play those songs or I sing the same song to him, I notice it has a calming effect. And I intend to sing this song throughout his whole life, because, you know, it's funny because the show is called Ending Well. And my grandmother, I remember my grandmother had a stroke, and, you know, I think she was 87 or 88, and she was in the hospital, and, you know, she wasn't going to be with us much longer. And she couldn't talk or anything like that. She wasn't even conscious, really. And the only thing that the nurses would say is that she kept humming, "Yes, Jesus loves me." And so, even though she wasn't there, we knew she was there. And and I have the exact same example, but with a like my dad's aunt, same thing. She couldn't speak, completely incoherent. But when we sang Yes, Jesus Loves Me to her, she hummed along. So there's just
Mhm.
something about having an anchoring song, whatever
Mhm.
your song, it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
that, but it
Yeah.
can carry you through. And your neurons and your brain, it just remembers that, and it will bring a sense of peace and calm to you.
I love that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the techniques, sorry, that you use. So, what is disruptive wellness, and how do you use that?
Yeah. So disruptive wellness for me is all about pushing back on society's narratives of what should wellness look like. If
Okay.
you go on social media, or you go on YouTube, or just different platforms, or even in magazines, or even wellness stores or clinics, everybody, there's a certain narrative of what wellness looks like. A lot of times it's related to nutrition and exercise and your body. Maybe it's pushing things like yoga and Pilates and certain types of
Mhm.
movement. And
Mhm.
I agree that these can all be aspects of wellness, but not everybody identifies with those things. And,
Mhm.
even like organic food or gluten-free food or a keto diet or a paleo, that's not everybody's version of wellness. So disruptive
Mhm.
wellness is figuring out what wellness plan and wellness practices are going to work for you, that are in alignment with your goals, your values, and your vision for your future. And
Mhm.
it's understanding too that starting with self-awareness, where am I at right now? There's 12 elements of wellness. So you evaluate yourself the 12 elements of wellness. Some people say 12, some people say 6, some people say 8. I think 12 is pretty comprehensive. And even still, there's still like, extra halves along the way. But the point is, whatever the number is, it's about integrated wellness. There's lots of parts
Mhm.
of our lives. It's not just exercise or body and food. It's mindset, it's careers, it's relationships, it's purpose, it's spirituality, it's rest, it's sun. It
Mhm.
all comes together,
Yeah.
right? So once you have awareness and you evaluate yourself in all of these areas, and you say, well, how do I even feel? Like, am I happy with how I feel with my food right now? Do I think I'm eating in a way that is satisfactory to me? And
Mhm.
you rate yourself from 1 to 10. And maybe your 10 is eating relatively healthy, having a salad like 3 times a week, and maybe fast food once a week. And that's your idea of 10. And then somebody else's idea of 10 is having organic meals 24/7, no budging, gluten free always. And their treat is like cherries. I don't know.
Mhm.
Right? That's their 10. That is not my 10,
Yeah.
but that is their 10.
Yeah.
So instead of us, society would want us to believe that whatever's being pushed in the dominant mainstream media is what we
Mhm.
should be striving for. That we all need to shop at Whole Foods, and we all need to. I know you like
Mhm.
that. We all need to shop at Whole Foods, and we all need to do certain things. But if it's not in alignment for you, why would you do it? It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. So let's not do wellness because somebody said so, or because we think it's the right
Mhm.
thing to do. Because the whole point of wellness is it's supposed to fill your cup. It is supposed to make you feel joyful and satisfied. So, I don't like a lot of super healthy things. I like a lot of them, but I don't like super, super healthy, right? So that wouldn't be joyful for me. So I need
Mhm.
a balance. So my 10 is going to look different, and I'm going to make a wellness plan that meets the 10 where I'm at. And so I'm going to say, okay, right now, maybe I'm at a 2. How can
Mhm.
I get to my version of a 10? Right. And
Mhm.
then we sit down and we work on a wellness plan of, okay, how do we close the gap? And we can't go from 2 to 10. We go from 2 to 3. We go
Yeah.
from 3 to 4. We go from 4 to 5. And we're constantly checking in with ourselves. How do I feel now? Maybe with food, do I feel more energy, or do I feel more joy, or do I feel more strength? What did you want to feel from the food?
Mhm.
Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, because
Mhm.
again, it's all connected. And as I said, you can't just look at them isolated, because food is directly related to money. Okay. And
Mhm.
costs money. And so let's just say you don't have the money, then this now relates to your career. And so
Mhm.
maybe you need to make
Mhm.
some change in your career to afford the food that you want, right? So it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
connected to each other. And then maybe you don't want to change careers though, because you feel a lot of purpose in what it is that you're doing. So how else can you come at the finances from a different way?
Mhm.
And or maybe you are not happy in your career, and this starts to affect your mindset because you're starting to feel unfulfilled, you're feeling depressed, but then this impacts your relationship with people around you because you're not happy. Like, you go to work, you're miserable, you're stressed, like you're burnt out, and now the people around you are experiencing the aftermath of that. So that's why the interconnectivity is so important. And sometimes people think that they have a specific issue with one thing, but when you unwind the yarn ball, you realize, no, it's actually way down here. but we just didn't realize that all the dots were connected.
Okay. I have so many questions right now. Here's what I'm hearing is I thought, okay, wellness, I get it, but I'm also hearing how interconnected it is with all other aspects of self-care, of, of just becoming yourself, living well. And how does this work when you're working with a client? Is this, okay, we have weekly meetings? Is this, I'm on call because I'm having a crisis at this moment? And how do you pair with something like a therapist or other doctors, like other health professionals? Because I see that everyone needs to be involved in what's happening in this transformation.
Yeah. So the first part of it, I mean, it's going to be different for every client. A lot of it just kind of depends on where they're at in their own personal wellness journey. So some people start with therapy first because they're working through past issues, past traumas. When they feel like they've gotten to a certain place of healing and they feel ready to move forward, because coaching, as a wellness coach, coaching is all about moving you forward. We don't deal with the past. Like, maybe I asked you one question about it, but coaching is action oriented and it is all about moving you forward. So coaching is like, what can we do today? This is the current situation. This is where you're at. Where do we go forward in the next step? That's what coaching is all about. So that's how it's a little bit different. So a therapist is very good if you're trying to work with issues from before that you need to deal with to even get to a place of readiness to be able to move forward. But it's just like a team. It's a support team, right? And so you are building your team just like how you would have a doctor and a dentist and all of these things to take care of your physical health. Maybe you have a trainer, maybe you have a nutritionist. It's just an extension of that, right? So having a wellness coach, or sometimes like a health coach, just to kind of depending on your needs, is just another person in your toolkit or support system for you. And so some clients, they just need to do check-ins once in a while. So then we just call those laser sessions because we can deal with, if it's one very specific challenge, we can usually deal with that in about 20 minutes. If you want a little bit more, because sometimes people need to talk something through, right? Especially if you're like me and you're a talker, you might need to explore a little bit deeper. So then we just have hour-long sessions. Again, these are just working on single issues. And it could be, some of the things I've helped clients with are not what are conventionally thought of as wellness issues. So it might be confidence in the workplace, speaking up in meetings, how to advocate for yourself and have your voice heard, or how to set boundaries with a family member, or how to move forward when you feel stuck in a career. So wellness coaching is kind of like wellness and life coaching put together because wellness is for our lives, right? So it's a little bit different. I think a lot of times when we think of wellness, we're thinking, again, that physical health narrative, but wellness is just covering all areas of our life. Even like, I don't feel fulfilled spiritually. Like that is a part of all of it. It's all a part, even finances, it's all a part of wellness. And so then for other clients, if they really want a good foundation and they want to create their own wellness plan now, I recommend a 3-month program. And so that is meeting 6 times. And so we meet 6 weeks. And during that time, we are kind of breaking it down step by step. Now, my coaching is a little bit different because I'm not here to just tell you what to do because it's not my life. It's yours and it has to work for you. Okay. So I don't even like that approach. So when I start off my coaching sessions, I start with you. Like one of the first questions I ask is like, what brings you here today? Okay, tell me what are the challenges that you're going through. We start with that, we work through that. And then I split the session. The second half of it is kind of going through the different steps you would take in some of the main areas of wellness to help you come up with a full customized wellness plan. And then at the end of that 3 months, you might go your merry way and then you touch base when you need. Like, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. And so whenever you need me, then you just, book another appointment. And in the future, I hope to maybe have something to kind of hold space for people in the meanwhile, but I haven't gotten there quite yet.
Okay. Now, I'm hearing you speak about how you help clients, and I assume that you were your first client, right?
Yes,
so can you share a little bit, like give us an idea of what was it like for you? What kind of challenges did you, if you're comfortable sharing, what kind of challenges were you starting with, and how did you help yourself, I guess, get to the other side, if you did, or if you asked someone else for help?
Yeah, so I was my first client, but I didn't get paid, so I don't know what happened there. But yeah, my journey, put the 2 words together, my journey to wellness really kind of actually started with my own mental health breakdown. I was in a situation where I was just going really fast paced. I was working full time. Then I started my own business on the side. I was working 7 days a week. I was going, life of the party, attending all the events, never saying no to anybody, just people pleasing. And I really kind of thought I was living a full life. And it was exhausting, but I kind of felt like, well, I'm supposed to hustle. I'm supposed to grind. I'm supposed to work hard. These are messages I've always heard growing up and in my circle. So I thought it was the right thing to do. And you don't even realize how exhausted you are or that things are starting to slip. And when I realized is when my husband said all of a sudden that he wanted a divorce. And I was like, I'm sorry, what was that word? And I remember sitting there being like, what else could that word sound like? Because I thought for sure I heard wrong. Because it came quite out the blue for me and I was quite surprised. And, it was a very long-winded traumatic situation, but long story short, at that time we got separated and I was in a different country. I was in my husband's home country of Antigua. I'm originally from Canada and I didn't really have a support system there. I had I had friends, I had family, but it's different. Like when you're going through a traumatic situation, you're now, you really want to be, and so it wasn't, I mentally couldn't handle it anymore. And I really fell into a deep depression because I really wanted this marriage to work out. And at the time he was not interested. And I'm like, well, now what do I do? And I barely even knew myself anymore. I think I had just attached myself so much to being his wife and just also being the business owner. I was just going. I really lost sight of just truly everything about myself. And so I had to leave, or I made the choice to leave. It didn't make sense to stay at the time. And I think that's a really important first step is sometimes you have to choose yourself, even if you want the situation to stay the same. It just was no longer mentally and emotionally making sense for me to stay. Like too many slips were happening. I was literally crumbling before my eyes. And so it only made sense to come back to Canada. But when I came back to Canada, I had to say goodbye to a life that I knew, goodbye to my home, my friends, my business I had to close down. And so when I came back, I came back and most people didn't even know I was back. And I wasn't working or anything. I just had a long period of solitude, a good couple months where I had nothing to do except spend time with myself. And at first it was very difficult because I'm just in this huge depression. I don't know how to get out of it. It's literally like I'm in the bottom of a pit. And I've heard people going through hard times before, but I have never, ever gone through anything traumatic. So I didn't understand it firsthand. And so now for me to be going through it firsthand, I'm like, what is this? I can't do this. It's like, I remember saying like, God, why me? Like, this is just not supposed to happen to me. And anyways, eventually, you got to kind of pull yourself out of it. And I do remember one friend who really coached me through it because she had gone through something similar. And I really believe this is why we're all put on this earth, is to share our stories, because you never know who can help the next person. And a lot of times, especially within the Black community, we want to keep things to ourselves. And I'm not saying like put all your business out there. I am not saying that. But be wise. But at the same time, it's good to be a little bit vulnerable and show the authenticity of whatever it is you're going through to people that you can trust, because that is how healing takes place. And that is how our community gets better. And that's how the world gets better. I really do believe so. So anyways, starting at that place of self-awareness and working with this person who I call her my wellness coach, because that's exactly what she did. She helped me start this wellness journey, really focused on introspection. And what is it I even want out of life? Who am I? Like what kinds of things? Because you have to build your own self-worth first, and you have to love yourself first. And I was so dependent on my husband's love. So now when I lost that, I'm like, who am I? And so falling in love with myself again and just finding myself again and starting a relationship with myself again. And that started to bring on my own healing. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, it doesn't even matter what happens with him. I can now move forward on my own. And I did. I just kind of went forward and I lived my own life. And ironically, and I'm really grateful to God, like my husband and I are now back together. So we were able to reconcile. And I truly do believe that a part of that was because I pursued my own wellness journey and I chose myself and I just put him aside and I had to just let go. I had to say, whatever happens with that happens. I can no longer control it. It's causing me too much emotional duress and mental and psychological duress. I can't live like this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to go my own path. And I think sometimes in life we're scared to walk away, but that fear is, it's really like a control or scarcity mindset or whatever. You're trying to control a situation, but sometimes you just can't. And what you're looking for is on the other side of you letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I really believe that everyone should just kind of prioritize their own wellness and really get back in touch with themselves and figure out, well, what is it I even want for my life? What are the things that are going to bring me joy and peace and love and fulfillment? And then you start to be deliberate in the things that you do in life to support that. And that's exactly how a wellness journey can begin. And hopefully, like, that's one of the reasons I'm now in this, is because I don't want people to have to get to the point where they lose something that's so important.
Yeah.
And so many people, like, I'm also a teacher, and so many of my colleagues are burnt out, and I understand it. And just in a lot of professions, people are burnt out, but they don't realize what's at risk if they keep going this path.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are entrepreneurs and they're working really hard and they think that the hustle and grind is the way to go. And to an extent, sure, you're supposed to be committed. But at the end of the day, if you are not going to put yourself first, something is going to give at some point. It might be your health,
Mm-hmm.
it might be your relationships, it might be your finances, but it's just not sustainable in the long run. So if you can just manage your wellness from now, you can be more strategic and intentional about how you live your life so that you can still do all of the things that you want to do, but in a way that still supports your well-being. Because what's the point of having all of this money? Like, it makes me so sad when I see all these celebrities, they have all this money. I was just listening to an audiobook, and she said, oh, I was working hard on my business and I was working 100 hours. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, if that's what success takes, in your version, I'm okay. Like, I don't want that, because that is not sustainable for me. And along the way, if you are sacrificing 100-hour weeks, you're not seeing your family and friends, you're not spending quality time together. And we always think we have so much time. You never know when that loved one is going to pass away, and you're going to want back that time, and it's not going to come back. So time is our most valuable resource. So use the time you have in your life to spend with the people that matter to you, even if it's just your own self. Like, you are worthy of spending time with too, right? Like, a lot of times we're thinking outside and it has to be families. No, you deserve to just spend time with yourself and do things you enjoy.
Can I ask? So I thank you, first of all, for sharing your journey. It's very touching. I know that many people who are going to watch this will resonate with that and will appreciate you sharing. I'm wondering about, specifically for our community, you said it, not everybody's, you got to use wisdom with when you're going to share your story and not, but there are many people who would want support, could benefit from support, but don't know even how to ask or don't realize that they need that support.
Yeah.
How do we get them to see you? Like, how do we get past that hump?
I mean, just send me a message. I'm a nice person. We can talk. It's all good. Like, I'm open to conversations. I just want to help people. But I think we just have to reach out. We have to there's no magic answer of, as soon as I do this, then I'll be all of a sudden confident. Do it scared. If you're uncomfortable, it's okay. Still make the phone call. I'm working with a client right now who has to make a difficult decision to end her marriage. And she's not happy about it, and it's not easy. But I'm like, just pick up the phone, just call the lawyer, just ask a question. Like, we just have to start somewhere. We just have to take a step, because what you have to do is say, am I worth it? Am I worth it to protect my well-being? Am I worth it to protect my mental health, my wellness? Is it worth it for me to protect myself so that I can protect my kids? Whatever the situation is, do you know what I mean? And if you are holding yourself to a level of self-worth where you realize you're worthy of it, you'll be able to make the decisions you need to make. So if you can't make that decision to call a therapist, to call a coach, to call whatever support you need, it's a self-worth issue. That's it. Because if you knew you were dying of cancer and you had 1 week to live, you're going to call that doctor and you're going to say, what are my options? Because you realize there is an urgency to it. But sometimes we just think, oh, it's okay, I can keep living like this. I can, again, we just have a misconstrued understanding of time, and we think that time is infinite and is forever, and that we're all going to live into our 90s and 100, and it just does not happen that way.
I think there's so many of my family, like I'm hearing you, and I'm just thinking, how do I help the people? Because I know so many people who've on the other side right? Like for me, who've experienced a loss, and they get into this rut where the grief hits you, you kind of work through the grief, and then you get stuck in life. Like I've been there. You get stuck in just kind of existing. And part of what we're doing is just living day by day. I've got this part. But we forget that in this span of life, I'm still living, and I can still make decisions for myself that'll allow me to have the life that I want. But you get into that rut where you're staying. So I'm loving this because I really hope it inspires some people to do that one thing, like do it scared, as you said, right? Like just make that call, make that step, understand that you're worth it. You're worth that time, because you're right. Time is very limited. I think that's one thing for me as a funeral director. Like I know very well that tomorrow is not promised. I know that. And even still me, who knows that so well, procrastinate on so many things. You're not alone. We all do this. But this is a good reminder, to stay focused and to put the main thing as the main thing.
And something I want to add to that too, we can all get in our own heads, and we can just be kind of going in our own like hamster wheel, and we're just not really realizing what's happening. And so something that is really helpful is, how do we disrupt what's happening in our head? And it's, who are we listening to? And so I think even just listening to audiobooks, or I'm a big believer in personal development and self-help. So find people that inspire you, that encourage you, and that motivate you. And if you keep listening to those voices long enough, you will pull yourself out, because you have to reach a point of readiness, right? Like, so if you're not ready, then you're not ready. And I understand that, because when everything crashed around me, I was not ready to do anything. All I could do was cry and just, you know what I mean? So I wasn't ready to go searching for help or anything. But thankfully, I have good people around me who would just keep talking to me and just keep encouraging me. And eventually, it's like you just start to borrow some of their strength, little bit by little bit. You start to believe what they're saying, like, oh, I can get over this. I can move on. I can heal, right? And so it's a journey to even get to that point. So I would say, if you're in that place, and if anybody's in that place, I really empathize with them, because I just know what it's like to be on the bottom, even though our bottoms might look different. And I would say to just listen to positive things. You don't even have to resonate with it. I remember a friend, when I was in my situation, she sent me this song, and it was called Choose Joy. And I remember thinking, like, did she send this to the wrong person? Like, doesn't she know what I'm going through? And I was actually a little bit like confused. I was like, I'm angry. Why would she send this to me? And I asked her, I'm like, did you mean to send this to me? And she said, yes, I want you to choose joy, Natalie. And I was like, this doesn't even make sense. And all I did, I played that song every single day. And I played it with a scowl on my face, like angry, like, yes. But I committed that the one thing I was going to do was press play. I was going to listen to it once a day. And I did it every single day. And then eventually 2 times and 3 times. Sometimes that song maybe a month, 2 months later, was playing for 2 hours. And I just kept listening to those words over and over again, choose joy, until I could truly do it for myself and say, even in the midst of this chaos where everything is so uncertain and I have to start a whole new life all over again, and there's all this embarrassment and shame and just uncertainty, I am now at a point where I can choose joy. And there is such a power when you can get to that point. But it starts, and this is why it's important to be in connection with people too, because the people around you, those friends or those family members, and sometimes it's even strangers, you just talk to them for a second, they can just say something, and that little thing just gives you hope to get to the next day, or gives you that little bit of, okay, I can make it 5 more hours based off that little word that somebody told me. And so that's why I said, keep going and finding those people who resonate with you, and you feel good when you listen to them, even if you're angry, but just let it sink into your spirit. And over time, it will sink in, and it will help you to move forward in your healing.
Yes. Love that. What a beautiful way to end. Natalie, thank you so much. Please let us know how we can get in touch with you, anything you have to share, or any final thoughts.
Yeah. So this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for having me in the first place. I have something for your listeners. I am actually offering free, very short 20-minute laser sessions right now. But I'm telling you, if you have a specific wellness challenge, we can just knock it out, because I don't want people walking around with these wellness challenges when there are solutions. And so I would encourage anybody, just book a free session. There's no strings attached. There is no money you need to give me. Let's just have a conversation, and let's see how I can help you. Hopefully just move forward and take some action. to support your own wellness. And if you're looking for me, I have a podcast. It's From a Full Cup, and I love doing it. And I'm really passionate about just giving us ideas of how we can support our own mental wellness and really just our overall well-being in optimal ways. And on Instagram, I am Natalie Mullen, and on LinkedIn, I'm Natalie Mullen. And that is all the social media I can handle. So that's it.
That's all you have. Perfect. That's all you need to do. Just the ones that you can be consistent on. So them. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. This information, and again, those links will be in the comment there, the show notes. Thank you very much. So you can get that link. Please reach out if you need support, if we can help you in any way. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks.